So let me ask now to come on the scenario. First, our colleague Olaf. So Olaf Madland is a customer of EasyMile. You know how to play with EasyMile, and you are handling a company that is playing with the operation of autonomous shuttle close to the Arctic Pole, where the temperature is also very low, and you are successful in operating. So we will see how you are doing this. I'm also asking Gilbert Gagnère, of course. Who is Gilbert? Gilbert is not there. Gilbert Gagnère, the CEO of EasyMile. Gilbert is there, of course. So Gilbert, your customer is there. Eh? You should be there. And and I will invite Catherine Gognaud. Catherine is there. Catherine. So, bonjour Catherine. So, why I have invited this colleague? But for two reasons. The first one is because EasyMile has made a major step in operating autonomous transportation, and especially with a customer in Norway, who is coming from Norway. I think this is something that we can also thank. And in France, when you are asking a place where effectively there is a lot of advance in playing with a plan, which is called the plan véhicule autonome in France, you should ask somebody from Rouen to come. And we are very lucky because it's a lady that pushed Autonomous Lab in Rouen, Madame Catherine Gognaud. You say that you are speaking faster in French than in English. So we will ask you to speak French. If you are speaking faster in French, because we are late, you see. So this is a good excuse for you. You accept it. I am very happy. So we are ready to start with some movie in order to take the ambient of how is the things going in Norway with the movie of our colleague Olaf.
The future has arrived, and the future is electric. But what will the future bring? Heavy-duty transport presents one of the biggest challenges facing our climate, representing 1/8 of global greenhouse emissions. But each challenge is an opportunity to create a solution, and every solution we create helps us solve a problem. Using vehicles in a smart way means fewer wasted trips, optimized routes, efficient operation, lower costs, and significantly lower air pollution from emissions, contributing to smarter cities, improved safety, and more green spaces. The vehicles record and share data with the platform of applied autonomy, sharing important data with other vehicles and actors, allowing driving adjustments and improvement of road conditions. Some challenges need bold new solutions, innovative thinking, and wild imagination. That's why we have a vision for the future, to keep developing know-how, methods and tools to implement smarter solutions in a profitable and sustainable way. And that's what drives us. Smart, simple, sustainable solutions that make a difference. Because we believe good ideas are only as good as the problems they solve. And because our shared future depends on it. Applied Autonomy delivers knowledge, solutions, and services for autonomous transportation. We've reached important goals with our good partners and customers.
So, first question to Gilles and to Olaf. Does that mean that now we have seen a running shuttle in open road in Norway? Does that mean that operation in open road with autonomous shuttle is running today?
Yes, we are actually driving in mixed traffic. We have replaced 2 big diesel buses with 2 autonomous shuttles in Kongsberg in Norway. It's a city also that has been working with Octa Satellite for a long time. with the Adriane program, so we are a lot of engineers there. But we have implemented the EasyMile EC10 in Kongsberg. We are driving a trajectory that is 4.4 kilometers long, roundabouts. We are even driving in the pedestrian street with the shops. That is part of the trajectory. And before we implemented it, the shops asked a bus in the pedestrian street. And they thought about a big bus. But this is nice small buses. And the shops is very happy because we create new life in the city in the wintertime when it's cold there. So the people there give very good feedback. And the thing here is that this project is not about only technology, it's also about implementing new thoughts, new minds in people's mindset. And we have workshop with children garden, schools and so on. And what the public transport actor has seen in Kongsberg is that the utilization of this bus has been increased by 5%. So people is traveling more with this service than they did before. And why do they do that? That is about interior. We had a speech earlier about interior. And regular buses, as you know, they are sitting behind each other. It's no social place to be. And the buses from EasyMile, they have seats against each other, which means that people can talk. And the driver is not holding the wheel. And the bus drivers, they are the bus drivers that we took out of the big buses. So they are used to work with people. And they are nice to speak with for the elderly people and for the children. So both the elderly people and the children and the parents of the children feel safer. So the technology side of it it's not a big thing in Kongsberg, I would say. It's a bigger thing for the people. But the legislation is there. That's okay. The safety is there. Okay. So we also brought the vehicle up to Svalbard. That is close to Northport. And Gilbert, I didn't tell Gilbert in advance. I showed him the film, and he was quite happy because nobody had been there, and it's no city far more north than Longyearbyen, so nobody can win that game. We have been there, we have planted the flag. So for Gilbert, so we invite you to come to Norway and do things together there in Norway. We have in December 50% of new cars sold in Norway were electric. 50%. So we have the total ecosystem to support electrical vehicle. And we are now number 3 on the list of KPMG Autonomous Vehicle Readiness Index, number 2 on technology and innovation, and in the description of number 2 on technology innovation, we work with EasyMile and applied autonomy is mentioned in the report of KPMG. So we like to work more with Toulouse and you guys here.
Olaf, you say to it works finally. You say to me that you are also launching a cooperation project in a formal way, and you are really in search of partners in addition to EasyMile to complete this consortium. So this is also an open invitation you are doing in a very concrete manner for this project. When this project will be closed or will be open?
Yeah. So here is from Kongsberg. If you put on the next slide, please. Yeah. This is a Horizon 2020. I think all you guys knows what Horizon 2020 is about. This one, DTR 06 2020, is 30 million euro. It's a one-step call. The call will open 3rd of December, and we have to deliver the proposal the 9th of April next year. We have already now a consortium in Norway with partnership with Sweden. And this call is about cross-border. We should show that the technology can work across cross-border. We should show that V2X works cross-border, and we should show the complexity, and we should show a holistic solution. We have EasyMile already on board. They will work with us. We could either be a partner with you, or we can establish a coordination from our side. But we like to have you on board here. So please contact me afterwards, those that are interested. I can give you more details about the consortium, the road, where to drive, and everything. So this is something we invite you.
Thank you. So, Catherine, alors Rouen, on a vu que vous aviez vraiment mis en route un laboratoire des transports autonomes à Rouen, avec beaucoup de partenaires d'ailleurs qui sont présents. On n'a pas vu PSA, on a vu Renault. On n'a pas vu,
en Normandie, c'est plutôt Renault,
vous êtes
le constructeur.
Le constructeur. Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez nous dire de ce que vous allez faire dans ce... Alors, est-ce qu'on peut parler... On ne parle pas de campus, là, on parle de ville. Ou est-ce qu'on parle de campus et de ville?
On parle de ville, avec une première expérimentation, effectivement, plutôt dans une zone de campus. Juste pour introduire le véhicule autonome, pourquoi ça nous intéresse, nous, un territoire? Parce qu'effectivement, nous, on organise la mobilité, on travaille aussi sur les questions d'aménagement, d'habitat. Voilà, on a un vaste champ de compétences. Et sur la mobilité, en fait, on travaille depuis quelques années sur, globalement, la notion de la ville apaisée. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Ça peut tout dire et rien dire, mais en tout cas, dans cette notion-là, la question de la mobilité, elle est super importante. Et surtout, elle est très importante quand on fait le lien avec l'espace public. Et quand on parle des impacts de la mobilité, on parle souvent des problèmes de qualité de l'air ou de changement climatique, mais on parle assez peu des problèmes de congestion et de problèmes d'occupation d'espace public. Et nous, c'est ce champ-là aussi qui nous intéresse. Donc quand Renault et Transdev, qui sont Transdev, notre opérateur de transport, on va dire, historique sur la métropole, et Renault, gros industriels dans la Normandie, dans la région, sont venus nous proposer de réfléchir, de travailler sur le véhicule autonome. On était très partants d'abord parce qu'il y a cet écosystème qui existe sur le territoire et parce qu'on a cette réflexion sur la mobilité et notamment sur la place de la voiture. Quelle place on laisse à la voiture, sachant qu'il est hors de question pour nous de prendre des positions radicales sur on ne veut plus voir de voitures, ce qui se fait dans certains territoires, mais de trouver une bonne façon de trouver sur quel segment la voiture est un outil important avec la notion de voiture connectée, partagée et autonome. Donc en fait, on se positionne là en tant que régulateur de la mobilité et de voir ce que le véhicule autonome peut nous apporter dans ce cadre-là. C'est vraiment ça, l'origine de la réflexion. Donc on a démarré évidemment avec la petite navette qui roule à 5 à l'heure sur le bord de Seine, un peu type foire du trône, et on s'est dit, bon, c'est intéressant, mais nous, ce qui nous intéresse, c'est de vraiment trouver des démonstrateurs en lien, je dirais des démonstrateurs in vivo. Ce qui nous intéresse, c'est qu'est-ce qu'on en fait de ces véhicules autonomes, quels services, quels cas d'usage on peut y associer. Donc on a commencé effectivement à travailler sur un campus, pour des tas de raisons. D'abord parce qu'effectivement, c'est un endroit où il y a des écoles d'ingénieurs, des laboratoires de recherche, des pôles de compétitivité. Et aussi parce que c'était un territoire relativement facile pour implémenter cette première expérimentation dont l'objectif était vraiment de faire circuler, comme on a pu le voir dans le petit film, des véhicules autonomes en voie ouverte et non pas en site réservé, avec un autre challenge qui était d'atteindre une vitesse de circulation assez élevée, c'est-à-dire en tout cas la même vitesse que les véhicules qui circulaient. Donc notamment, on roule maintenant à 30-40 km/h. Et troisième élément, y adosser un service de transport à la demande. Donc aujourd'hui, on peut, alors tout ça reste effectivement expérimental. On n'a pas pu, comme on le voulait au départ, ouvrir complètement le service. Donc c'est des panels, puisque effectivement le ministère nous oblige encore à avoir un certain contrôle sur les personnes qui utilisent le service. Mais en tout cas, ça fonctionne aujourd'hui. Et on a des projets pour les 10 ou 15 ans qui viennent, à partir de ce premier laboratoire, effectivement, qui est porté par un consortium d'acteurs publics et privés.
Gilbert, you were here 2 years ago, 2 years after.
That's correct.
2 years after, what can you say about, you are in North America, you are in Asia, you are in Europe. Where do you see really coming the things? You invite your customer from Norway as a key customer, but do you see also other countries that are moving in the right direction for the autonomous driving around the world?
Well, it's hard to tell where will be the market in 5 years down the road, but for, I would say, the next 12 months, 24 months, what we can foresee as of now is that North America is spending way more money than anyone else in the world in this arena, followed most likely by the Scandinavian countries. I mean, both Norway, Sweden, Denmark are, I mean, compared to the population and the GDP, they are spending quite a lot in this arena. And Germany has currently massive investments. Our two largest customers in 2019 are basically US and Germany by far, by really, really far. Yeah.
How much shuttles are running today operationally in Germany?
Well, in Germany alone, I can't tell, but I would say probably around 15, and we are now in the process of deploying 7 or 8 more shuttles by end of the year. So I mean, you can do the maths. Next year there will be over 20 shuttles in operations in Germany.
You don't speak about China, you don't speak about Asia.
We have currently 5 vehicles in operation in Nanjing, but it's not regular operations. It's more like not an amusement, but I mean more or less. A university in Nanjing has acquired 5 shuttles, and from times to times they are used by the students. But it's not a regular service like in Kongsberg, Norway, or in Barkarby in Sweden, or in Germany in Monheim, where what has been done is really a regular service for passengers, with sometimes a strong willingness of the municipality to get rid of the cars, not completely, as you said, for Rouen, but the case of Barkarby is quite interesting because it's a former military airbase. It has been decommissioned and the land has been returned to property development. And from day one, the municipality has decided that they're going to reduce drastically the number of parking lots and the footprint of the roads and roundabouts. And to be able to do that, so from day one, even though the houses are not yet occupied, you have to provide a mobility service because they consider that it's during the first 3 weeks of occupation of your new home that you decide what mean of transportation you're going to use for the rest of your life at this place. So if you wait for the new residential area to be filled with people to start providing public transport, then it's too late because everybody starts using the car. So the concept here is that people who decide that they're going to live in this new residential area, they know from day one that they will hardly be allowed to use a car because it's not that you cannot use your car, you just cannot park it.
2 years ago, you were saying the business will start when I will have the authorization to not have an operator inside of my shuttle, and this will make the economical situation better. Is it the case in Norway already?
We have now sent the application to drive without an operator in part of the trajectory in Kongsberg. We are going to set up a new trajectory in a location called Herøya. It's the industrial site. It's in the I would say a city because there is a lot of different type of companies within that area, and you that are interested in maritime, the Yara Birkeland, the autonomous vessel, will arrive to this location. So there will be big container movers that will drive in the same location. So we will have autonomous shuttle that is without an operator interacting with the traffic lights. So the traffic lights will be used to regulate the traffic between the big trucks driving the containers and the shuttle with the people. So that is without an operator. We have already Yara on board, we have the Hørøya Industrial Park on board, we have the municipality, and important also the National Public Road of Norway, the regulator. So we are working here now on the legislation, the trust, the technology, and the involvement of the population also of Porsgrunn municipality that is just outside, where we also will have an operation. So we get forward, I would say.
And your customers are paying
tickets? In Kongsberg, the adults, those that have money to afford for ticket, they pay the regular ticket for the public transport, so they have to show the ticket. The elderly people and the school children, they travel free. And the cool thing here as well, the elderly people use it as a cafe. They're sitting there and talking. They do not use it just for transport. So the cafe have moved into the bus.
Catherine, peut-être un commentaire sur le caractère passer à l'action de manière opérationnelle et intégrée dans le mode d'un transport public, quelque chose qui ressemble à du transport autonome.
Oui.
C'est envisagé.
C'est tout à fait l'objectif qu'on s'est fixé pour les années qui viennent. Donc là, on a eu un financement important, puisqu'on a été lauréat, comme la métropole de Toulouse d'ailleurs, de l'appel à projet territoire d'innovation de grande ambition. Et donc ça va nous donner un vrai levier. Et en fait, on va travailler dans les 10 ans qui viennent sur 2 axes. Un premier axe qui est plutôt, on va dire, porté par Renault autour du développement de la voiture individuelle, mais qu'on souhaitera partager, donc plutôt sur le mode taxi autonome. Donc là, on démarre très vite avec eux sur un projet qui est dans l'hypercentre rouennais de faire circuler, donc, de mettre en place un système de transport à la demande, donc complètement rattaché au réseau de transport. Et côté Transdev, on avance plutôt sur le véhicule collectif autonome avec l'ambition de mettre en service peut-être dans 10 ans une première ligne de bus à haut niveau de service autonome. Donc effectivement, nous, ce qui nous intéresse, c'est de relier ça dans notre système global de mobilité. Le problème aujourd'hui, c'est que le business model, il n'existe pas vraiment, même pas du tout. Donc on s'est fixé des objectifs ambitieux, notamment Transdev, sur la suppression du safety driver. Donc pour l'instant, qu'on a jalonné à l'horizon, on va dire 2024, mais je ne sais pas aujourd'hui si on saura l'atteindre. Dans certaines conditions, peut-être. En tout cas, sans doute pas en site complètement ouvert. Mais je dirais le modèle économique repose là-dessus, clairement. Sans ça, il n'y a pas de possibilité. Et l'autre sujet financier quand même important, c'est tout ce qui est équipement de bord de route. Aujourd'hui, il y a débat ou pas, j'en sais rien, mais en tout cas, personne ne sait encore qui finance ça. Bon, évidemment, tout le monde se tourne vers la collectivité en disant vous financez l'éclairage, les feux, tout ça, donc vous allez bien financer les capteurs. Pourquoi pas. Encore faut-il qu'à un moment donné, on puisse peut-être les mutualiser. Donc ça fait aussi partie des pistes qu'on regarde. Voilà. Et le dernier sujet, enfin le dernier, il y en a plein d'autres, hein, mais qui nous intéresse beaucoup, et c'est ça qui va être important dans les mois qui viennent avec le développement d'une première ligne de bus régulière avec une navette autonome et de ce petit transport, ambitieux transport à la demande dans l'hypercentre, c'est vraiment de voir comment réagissent les gens. C'est toutes ces questions, ce qu'on appelle l'acceptabilité, même si ça recouvre plein de choses. C'est vraiment que ces démonstrateurs-là soient en prise avec la vie de tous les jours, la vie du réseau, mais la vie des gens aussi.
I have understood, Gilbert, that you develop new products, not only to transport people, but also to transport goods. And I have seen recently a nice movie done PSA Sochaux showing a small tractor, autonomous. So what is the trend in your company? You are also developing new products in the field of transport of goods?
But you must understand that EasyMile is not an OEM. We don't build any vehicle. We don't design any vehicle. We are mostly a software company. So we develop the technology, and then we partner with OEMs who can basically provide the platform to address a particular use case for which we believe the technology, I mean, is I would say good enough to meet the safety standards. So we have identified the first use case with that is suitable for a shuttle. People mover for the first and last mile at low speed, blah, blah, blah. So this is how we ended up making a partnership with Ligier to develop a shuttle. A second use case that we have identified for autonomous technology is in the material handling and more specifically baggage tractors. 25 tons baggage tractors that are mostly used in airports, but also in the industry and more specifically in the car industry. So we have partnered with a company called the TLD. It's a French-based company, but with a worldwide footprint. It's actually the world leader of ground support equipment for airports. And so we shook hands, I think it was June 2017. And now we are at a stage where we have almost a product. It's being tested in different environments. One of them is the PSA Sochaux factory, as you mentioned. But we have also different pilots in Europe with other car manufacturers, among the largest ones. And TLD is in charge of the sales of the tractor in the airport business. So there's an ongoing test at Narita Airport with Japan Airlines. There's another one, I believe, in London Heathrow with British Airways. And there are a couple of other airlines in the US who are testing the product at the moment. Here, the challenge is not only the safety of the system, it's also the availability rate. I mean, you all know that sensors are very challenged in adverse weather conditions. The problem when you use that kind of technology for logistics purpose, especially when the logistics flows are critical, typically at the PSA Sochaux, the tractor is used to bring parts from the warehouse of one of the suppliers to the assembly line. If we stop bringing the parts to the assembly line every minute, there is one car that will not be built. So there is a cost. So before claiming that we have a product, we have to test the availability rate in real life conditions, especially in winter. And good point, Sochaux is, in the winter in Sochaux is maybe not so harsh as in maybe Calgary. But believe me, it's cold, foggy, rainy, there's everything. So hopefully, beginning of next year, the product will be officially validated.
Excellent. So, you want to say something? I think I will bring you the microphone for the last time because I've done people are very angry. You should too, so angry. So I will make the break at 1 o'clock. So please make the last sentence. You have 4 minutes, one for each of you.
We have just some few words. Just to tell what our role is in applied autonomy. What we are doing is to have the ability to connect different types of vehicles to a control tower, so we can support operators of transport to use them. And we have another customer, Gilbert, that is working on airports that like to see this tractor out there. So, but there is a step before the luggage leave the luggage system out to the tractor. That is part. And Gilbert, we have a customer that like to have that addressed, so you can enable your tractor. And one step there is the arm to lift the suitcase from the luggage system to the container. And if there are any actors here, or you know aware of many actors that is very good on this very efficient system of different suitcase handling. They are soft, they are hard, they are big, and the ladies put the toilet things in one side of and the nice dresses on the other side, so it can be unbalanced. So it's quite challenging. But if you have no companies that are good on those things, moving things very fast, also talk to me.
Alors, moi, je vais juste revenir à il y a quelques années, quand on disait le véhicule autonome, c'est la solution pour la desserte des zones peu denses, parce que c'est un vrai problème. C'est quand même là qu'il y a une vraie dépendance à la voiture et qu'on a du mal à mettre en place des systèmes de transport qui soient efficients au plan économique notamment. Bon, on se rend compte que ça, c'est reporté quand même à quelques années, mais pourquoi nous, on continue à s'intéresser à ça ? Parce que d'abord on y voit des solutions à terme, et donc c'est aussi notre travail de faire un peu de prospective, parce qu'on a aussi, on doit soutenir les entreprises, et ça fait partie de notre rôle, et surtout on veut vraiment être là pour anticiper à la fois les bons côtés, pour en profiter, si ça vient, et anticiper éventuellement les mauvais côtés. Parce que je pense qu'il n'y aurait rien de pire que de voir des voitures envahies, enfin des villes envahies par des véhicules autonomes, où il n'y aurait plus non pas une ou deux personnes, mais zéro. Et ça, c'est vraiment ce qu'on ne veut pas voir, quoi.
Merci. Gilbert, conclusion?
A couple of words of conclusion about the safety driver, because as it has been mentioned, this is the key to really open the market. There's no point talking about readiness of vehicle as long as you have not set a target in terms of functional safety. Because if you allow me to kill in average one person every hour of operation, we are ready now, right? So if you and there's currently no standard set by any authority. There's a French group of industrials made of OEMs, public transport operators. I don't know if municipalities have participated, but anyway, they've more or less decided that a good benchmark would be the current efficiency and level of safety of a human bus driver. And guess what? The actual fatality rate of a bus driver in Europe is 1 every 25 million hours of operations. That's about 2,600 years of continuous operations. So once you have said that, you realize how difficult is the exercise. And of course, we won't be able to achieve that without putting some serious constraints on the environment.
Thank you, Gilbert. Ken,
I have a closing remark.
Closing remark?
Okay.
From Canada.
All right. So Canada, in general, mining and natural resources. And maple syrup, yes. So harvesting technology. We've used autonomous systems now over the last 5 years in mining. So you'll find completely autonomous systems running about the size of this room to extract ore, as well as mining of oil sands. So variety of different mining technologies, fully autonomous for years. The other piece is agriculture. In one of our clients, DOT for ACAMP, is a fully autonomous agricultural system just introduced this summer. So these are benign environments but safety is important because you don't want to hurt anybody. But the vehicles run in the fields and do fully autonomous harvesting, planting, seeding, fertilizing, and so forth. So the farmer doesn't have 12 children anymore. They can have a computer in their home, push a button, and go back to sleep, and basically harvest. And then autonomous systems like airports are important, and so we're looking and developed security systems, but there's many different applications, like because it is so cold, They have autonomous plowing now over the course of the last 2 years, fully autonomous roadway plowing in airports because we need it all the time. And those are the kinds of applications today. We don't allow people on some of these applications, so it's a little easier from a safety standpoint. Anyway, closing remarks.